I've got a Tru-Turf roller here. This is one of the older Tru-Turf rollers. It's about 18 inches long, about 2 3/8 in diameter. It's got a large 6205 bearing in each end. I'm gonna put my left hand bracket about an inch. So the face of the bracket is about an inch on the right hand side of the end of the slot. And I'm going to use a 2 1/16 tapered insert in each end bracket. The Model A tamer comes with 2-inch tapered inserts standard. If you're going to do several of these older Tru-Turf rollers with this large bearing, and you're going to order a Model A, you might want to just request that you get the 2 1/16 tapered inserts instead of the 2-inch, because this 6205 bearing will not fit through a 2-inch hole. I'm going to use this adapter to screw into the end of the shaft. This is a 3/8 fine thread to 5/8 fine thread adapter. I'll put my puller bridge up here, lock it down. Jacking screw screws into the adapter. Put the standoffs up here. Now I'm going to pull the shaft and the bearing out. And at the same time, I'm going to pull the shaft out of this bearing on this end. Okay. Shaft and the bearing is out. Flip it around. Now this bearing is intact, so I can just knock it out from the other end with an old shaft. Okay, if that bearing was not intact, let's say it had fallen apart and leaving the outer race in there. For this particular Tru-Turf roller with the 6205 bearing, you got a couple of options. You may be able to get behind there with an old shaft and knock it out. You may be able to clear this ring, snap ring that's in there, and knock it out. You could also pull it out using the 1.5 to 1 3/4 collet. You would stick it so the feet expand inside the groove of the race and pull it out. The new Tru-Turf rollers that I've encountered have a smaller bearing, and they also have a smaller shoulder inside the roller that will not allow you to get behind that outer race. So you have to pull that outer race out if the bearing is not intact. I don't think there's any way to get behind it. Okay, to remove this old bearing from the shaft, you could press it out with an arbor press, or you could pull it off of here with a puller, a bearing splitter type puller, or you could do what I'm getting ready to do. Put it back in here and pull the shaft out of that bearing. Like this. Well, I didn't even have to pull that one out. It came out pretty easily. But you see what I mean there. Sometimes they'll seize onto that shaft pretty tight. If you want to remove the intact bearing, instead of knocking it out with an old shaft, you could also, for this 6205 bearing, you could pull it out using a 1-inch collet. Alright, we're going to clean the shaft up, put our new bearings in. Get them started here. My preferred method of installing these bearings is to press them in or squeeze them in. I've got a adapter here that I'm going to screw in all the way till it seats up against the end. I've got another identical adapter that goes in this end. Need to make sure that the threads are in good condition in the shaft, so these adapters will screw all the way in and mate to the end of the shaft. Then I've got a pair of installation tools that I'm going to put on each end. This particular tool right here, I've got a hardened insert. That hardened insert will go on the outside. Then I've got these jacking nuts here. I want to make sure that this press tool fits over the nose of this jacking nut. In other words, the nose of the jacking nut needs to fit inside of this installation tool to keep it centered. Press both bearings in, and I'm pressing the outside and the inside race of those bearings at the same time, which is the ideal way to do it. Especially on these older ones, I've noticed that the bearing fits tightly around the shaft and also fits tightly inside the roller. So you really need to be pressing on both the inner and outer races at the same time. And we've got both bearings all the way in, and that's pretty much it. Just need to remove the adapter. Unscrew this jacking nut first. Then the press tool, and then to remove this threaded adapter, I may need to zing it off with a impact gun. One other thing that I should mention, when you put new bearings in these, the new bearings may have a minimal amount of a low-grade grease. They may not be fully packed with grease because they're probably, they're used inside of high-speed machines. Since these rollers are not rotating at a high speed, you may want to pop that seal out of here, wash the grease out, and repack it fully with a high quality grease. And I think that'll allow these rollers to last even longer. That's it for this Tru-Turf roller.